Foreign Secretary said Cabinet is like a nest of singing birds and insisted he will stay in his job. Theresa May's delivering a fantastic Brexit, he said. But is she? Certainly after the Financial Times has reported that Angela Merkel in Germany has been told that the offer Theresa May is going to make on Friday is a €20 billion offer to the EU budget. Well, let's talk about this with Jonathan Isaby. He's editor of Brexit Central and joins us now. Good morning to you, Jonathan.
Good morning, Julia.
So just first of all, in terms of Boris Johnson's relations with Theresa May, what should we believe?
Well, I mean, there was clearly a desire on the part of Boris to make his feelings known about how excited he was about Brexit and so on, and hence he wrote that long speech, which he then converted into an article for the Telegraph, because obviously he was a key player in the Vote Leave campaign, and I dare say he feels a certain sense of ownership over the fact that the Brexit vote even happened in the first place. And, obviously because of the new Department for Data in the European Union, I suppose he may feel slightly shut out from what the government is doing on Brexit. But at the end of the day, what he's concluded in saying is pretty much the same thing that the Prime Minister is saying. And dare I say it, we journalists do like a good split story, and sometimes we'll kind of seek division or exacerbate divisions unnecessarily. And dare I say it also, at this time of the year, a few years ago, you and I would have spent the last few days at Lib Dem conference, but that doesn't really seem to provide much by way of...
No, well, we got out early for good behaviour, so... didn't we, Jonathan, on this,
yeah.
on this one? No, but I have to say, some extraordinary words, actually, from Vince Cable. I have to say, I had to be prevented from kicking in my own television yesterday when I heard some of Vince Cable's speech. But this report in the Financial Times today looks pretty well sourced in terms of what Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, of course, is up for re-election on Sunday and is likely to be back in office, that she has been told by the British government to expect an offer of a post-Brexit EU budget hole to be filled by at least €20 billion. Now, we've been told, haven't we, by the EU negotiators, by Michel Barnier, who's leading those negotiations, that we have to at least agree some substance, some ideas, some framework for a divorce bill to be paid before they can move on to talking about a trade deal. Many people, and I say I'm father among them, is that, well, we don't know how much we're willing to offer to be nice. We're not due any money to pay any money. If anything, I think they should pay us, but willing to pay us some if we have to do things, on a nice level and keep everything all friendly. But I have to say, I'm not that keen on us offering a single penny or a single cent lesser until we've got a decent trade deal on the cards. But what do you make of what this offer is about?
Well, of course, the traditional EU mantra is nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. So, whatever may or may not be put on the table in terms of talk about money over the coming days, there's a lot still to be discussed. I don't know whether the Prime Minister will put a figure in the speech on Friday. The Downing Street has certainly been saying overnight that the FT story is mere speculation and they're not going to comment on a speech that hasn't yet been given. But what we do have to remember is that the current EU budget cycle runs until the end of 2020, which is obviously a year, nearly 2 years, in fact, after we will have left the European Union. And I think there will be a sense within much of the government that we effectively committed to our funding of certain EU projects and programs and contributions to the budget during the period that runs until the end of 2020, and that it would be the decent thing to do to ensure that we pay our dues rather than leave the European Union in the lurch, albeit if we do that, they need to take into account the considerable EU assets that we rightfully would be able to lay claim to a proportion of, and B, they would need to play fair in terms of the talks ongoing about trade.
Yeah, I mean, indeed, it is going to be a bit of a quid pro quo. But are we to believe now then that what was reported, I think, at the Telegraph initially, that Boris Johnson was telling friends that he would resign if he didn't hear what he wanted to hear in the speech? Are we to believe that Boris Johnson's speech that then turned into an article, 4,000-word essay in the Daily Telegraph, that has actually changed what Theresa May was going to say on Friday? And if so, it's an extraordinary way to run a government.
I mean, it's hard to know exactly what has or hasn't happened behind closed doors, but clearly it was a way of Boris Johnson ensuring that his feelings were well known and out in the public domain. I'm not sure I believe all the threats about resignation. I don't think that it would have gone down very well with the Tory grassroots for him to have flounced out of government at this juncture. I think what the Tory grassroots want more than ever is just a bit of stability, and that involves both the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and all the other senior members of the cabinet getting on with the job in hand, because this is the most important thing that a British government has done in decades, and it's absolutely incumbent on them that they get it right.
But this is the thing, isn't it? We know that it was a pretty narrow outcome in that Brexit vote, for 52 to 48. Now, you and I were on the same side on this. We were both Leave voters, and but I know many Remain voters, and the polling seems to be pretty clear that at least half of Remain voters sort of like, right, fine, we accept the result, let's get on with it, let's get a good deal. It seems to me that the vast majority of people in this country are just sitting here absolutely fed up, infuriated, frustrated, and quite anxious, actually, a lot of the time, that this government is, I'm trying to think of a word I can say on a family radio station, but messing, I think we'll go politely, messing this up. They're all over the place. They don't seem to agree policy in cabinet and then stick to it. Everyone's battling it out. Theresa May hasn't got any authority. People feel they can just speak out and say what they darn well please without cabinet collective responsibility. There is a real danger, is there not, that this lack of authority on Theresa May's part and her lack of a clear vision on what she wants, what she thinks would be a good deal, as opposed to what the last person who spoke to her said to her, it is going to actually damage our ability to negotiate. I mean, unless there is some cunning, brilliant plan going on behind the scenes, and I'm definitely not getting that impression.
Look, I think the British nation, the British government, remains in a very strong position for this negotiation that's happening. The Prime Minister set out a very clear vision in the Lancaster House speech back at the beginning of the year about how she sees Brexit happening and Britain's role in the world going forward. And the speech we're going to get on Friday will obviously build on that, and I think will echo a lot of those sentiments in that. As I say, I think if you look at the utterances of all the senior members of the government, there is really not a great deal to choose between them. They are getting on with the job. It is a complicated job. No one is denying that. But as you say, 70% of the British public, according to all the latest polling, wants the government to get on with delivering Brexit. And to my mind, the biggest disruption and a great disservice to getting the right result are that minority of politicians, Liberal Democrats, some Labour politicians, who are actively trying to block Brexit, delay Brexit, scupper Brexit, which is completely against the national interest. Well,
we shall wait and see. There are many indeed on the the right wing of the Tory party who don't want a single penny to be paid and might kick a fuss about that as well. Boris Johnson, we shall wait and see whether he's still in his job on Saturday, as Theresa May and he say they expect. Jonathan Isaby, editor of Brexit Central, thank you very much indeed for joining us.